We went to church every Sunday, and because my parents both sang in the choir, they planted us in the front row on the right side of the church where they could keep an eye on us. They would look out from the choir loft and give us the look if we strayed from the expected church behavior. And if we behaved, we were treated to a fresca from the soda machine, split between the four of us. Time went on. I grew up. I moved out, but I continued to stay in touch with the people in my parents' church. I enjoyed visiting people that were no longer able to get to church. And when I joined this church, I became a member of the Ministry of Caring. Monica Lyon was one of the first people I visited. As most of you know, Monica spent several months at the Atria House. I became quite close to her, and I visited Monica often. One time, last winter, I arrived, took my coat off, and began chatting with Monica. She looked over at me and made a comment that has stuck with me. She said, "Carol, I like that you take your coat off when you come to visit me. It gives me a message that you are here, that you are staying for a while." I paused, and I wondered, was that a conscious behavior on my part? Was I taking my coat off to intentionally give Monica that message? Was I that intuitive? I reflected back on my upbringing. My dad was and is very sensitive to these types of things. He is someone that wants to give a message of full presence whenever he is with people. He always does take his coat off, sits down, and gives his full attention to the person he is visiting with. He never looks like he has any place else to be. My oldest daughter lived with my dad for several months a few years ago, and she remembers fondly arriving home late in the evening from work, and my dad would always have juice and cookies waiting for her. They would visit and catch up from the day. And Ellen reflects back and says those evenings were some of her fondest memories with my dad. She'll say, "Grampy was fully interested in me," and what a wonderful message for someone to receive. On the other hand, my parents, who I have said are organic chemists, had this rather comedic behavior of monitoring their body temperature, and throughout the day would take off layers of clothing to make sure that they were perfectly comfortable at all times. They would never keep their coats on while inside because, as my dad says, he doesn't like climate shock. And he would experience climate shock if he wore his coat inside, got overheated, and went out into the cold winter weather. I grew up watching this layers on, layers off behavior. So to come back to that question, what prompted me to take my coat off with Monica? I guess I would have to say it was a combination of factors. I thought more about that comment, "I like that you take your coat off," and I began to think about this behavior. When I'm interacting with my husband, my daughters, my friends, anyone at all, am I taking my coat off? Which is to say, am I fully present in that moment? I know there are times I am not. I like to think of myself as a skilled multitasker. I read recently that multitasking means doing several things at once rather badly. I'm not ready to accept that information, but I suspect there is some truth to it. I have this impression of myself that I can listen to my husband, send a text, bake a cake, and switch the laundry all at the same time. I'm sure my husband would question how well I take my coat off for him in those instances. Then I began to think about my time with the Lord, and I had to ask myself, am I taking my coat off for Jesus? I began to wonder. I have a routine each morning. I pour myself a cup of coffee. I sit in the living room, which gets the morning sun. I have my materials in front of me. I have my Mornings with Jesus devotional. I have the upper room. I have the Bible. I have a list of my prayer concerns, a list of things I feel blessed and grateful for, and my prayer journal, something I write in each day. And so it begins. I have everything in place to take my coat off for Jesus. And for me, this means leaving my cell phone in the other room, closing my mind off to the plants that need watering, the email that needs a response, the card that needs to be sent, the dog that needs to be walked. The list is long, and it has a way of talking to me. I want to be fully present in my quiet time with the Lord. I'm retired. I have the time. I have the desire. And evidently, according to Monica, I'm quite good at taking my coat off. So what's the problem? For me, the answer comes in part with being more attentive. I used to teach courses on strategies that would help young children be more attentive to what they were doing. It included making things exciting and interactive, creating things children could explore, and providing materials they could investigate. I'm not sure those strategies would help me in my prayer time with the Lord. I need to bring in the 3 Ds: discipline, devotion, and dedication. Discipline requires an element of self-control, the ability to stay the course, stay on task. Devotion is about showing loyalty and love, and dedication suggests a commitment, a promise. So with self-control and loyalty and love and commitment to the Lord, I am moving closer toward successfully taking my coat off for the Lord. I want to be fully present with the Lord. On those days when I see a difference in my life. Psalm 131, verse 2, speaks to this state of calm. And it reads, "Instead, I have calmed and quieted myself like a weaned child who no longer cries for its mother's milk." When I am fully present in my time with the Lord, I feel a sense of calm, of peace, of trust. I am better able to cope with the challenges in my day, concerns I have for myself or for others. There's something so powerful for me when I successfully take my coat off. I can better hear the Lord, better understand what I am meant to do, and better able to be in service to Him. I'm better able to live my life that day. When I take my coat off, I feel His presence differently. Oh, I know He's there regardless of whether I take my coat off for Him. I know He forgives me for my multitasking through our prayer time. And I know He loves me through my feelings. But I know I'm better off when I take my coat off for Him. And so I begin each day now with this prayer. Dear Lord, I want to come to You with my coat off. That is my fervent wish. I know I experience You differently when I do. I know You will forgive me when I don't. As I move through each day, I'm working harder to give each person I interact with a full present. The "I've taken my coat off for You" message. And I hope when I'm here with each of you, you feel that I am taking my coat off for you. I know my relationships are richer and fuller when I take my coat off. I will close with one of my favorite passages in the Bible. It's from Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I know when I am fully present in my prayer time with the Lord, I am more able to take the Lord's yoke upon me. And when I take that yoke upon me, I feel at peace. Everything in my life comes together. Thank you.